Noctis, Raven, and Firefrog haven't stopped to the point where I think Noctis doesn't know what a sleep schedule looks like anymore. So for the health of the team, if I take the game down, they're going to be able to refocus, and and I think that's going to be better to get into open beta. One of the reasons as well, going from closed beta to open beta, when we do it after we take the game down and come back, is that open beta is when we've kind of scheduled marketing, because that's when the game should be good enough to stand on its own 2 feet. You'll probably notice when you leave a game up like this that's not finished and only has casual game modes, you're going to get a lot less player base than just the weekends. So I think it's kind of important to acknowledge that what we shipped in closed beta was really about making sure the game was working, and the core of it was kind of fun. Unfortunately, without having stuff like TDM, CTF, and MacGuffin in and polished and finished, the replayability on some of the game modes was extremely, I would say, low. Just because they didn't offer you anything more than just kind of, raw aim and movement. But that's kind of what we wanted to test. So we want to make sure the core is good. So taking the game down is for the health of the team. It's also so that we can take a couple of steps back, fixing stuff that we've learned through closed beta. And then when we come to open beta, hopefully the game obviously will stay up. And we've learned a lot about, in terms of the master server, what it's like to run a live product, and all that jazz. So which one of the devs caught corona? None. But Omar's little boys, they had the first confirmed case of corona in Stockholm at a school, so they're quarantined now. So I think he's got like a 5 and a 10-year-old, or a 6 and a 10. So yeah, it's getting more serious. That'd be okay. I don't think they got it, as far as I would have known. But they are in the risk group. One of the little boys has asthma. So luckily, someone got diagnosed quite early on, I think about two weeks ago at the school. So they've been home since. Okay, so we'll talk weapon balance first. The game is client side. So what's happened is like, I didn't put a lot of focus, I apologize, on balancing some of the core weapons. Rockets are way too strong, and they're also a little bit too bouncy, to the point when you meet somebody, it really doesn't become a skillful fight, it becomes a random who gets what bounce. So once we improve the netcode and go from client-side netcode, which we really needed to do just to test all the master server stuff, not to have any extra variables into, not master server, but servers in general, then I can actually balance the rockets properly around rockets being, more server-side hit detection rather than client-side. So in combat, they're too bouncy, they're too random at close range, especially. And there's also a thing where if you hit somebody close range, you almost get punished more because your knockback is like higher than theirs. And I think the knockback on yourself is higher because of where we're spawning the rocket right now. So I think it's also worth looking into where the rocket spawns, just to help it be more consistent. But balancing that will be really a lot easier for me when I get a more finalized netcode for open beta. So I'm aware. The shaft, I think most arena FPS games have about a 2 pixel buffer on the shaft either side of the hitbox. We have a 0.5, which means a lot of people's shafts just aren't sticking, combined with no knockback on the ground, and they're only doing about 130 DPS right now. It's a little bit too weak and a little bit too hard to kind of have any stopping power against your opponent. So we need to address that at the same time as the rocket launcher, which again will be a lot easier when we get a working netcode, because we had a lot of weird stuff happen on client-side netcode with a ground knockback. So I just removed it so the game felt a little bit easier, or a little bit more predictable. Shotgun is the last defender. Spawns from a point of singularity right now. and then goes like that. I need a cone. I didn't ask Frog to get me a cone because he had more important stuff to do. So when the shotgun comes back in open beta, it will be a cone. What that will mean is like it's really easy for me to balance it. It'll be more predictable in terms of what you can hit. So you should hit more. Yeah, you should know when it's hit and not. And also we've got tech behind all the weapons that's quite nice. So we can change, for example, drop off damage. So if we want it to be kind of Quake Live good, we can make it Quake Live good. If you want it to drop off a little bit more than Quake Live, we can do that. But they're the three biggest offenders. Other than that, I think it's okay. Movement as well will it will help to find out where the movement is once the netcode gets done for the weapons. In terms of movement, we did some updates over closed beta with the character lean animations and kept it inside the hitbox. I think that helped a lot. The other thing is though, because we're running the physics at 500 tick rate or 500 hertz as opposed to kind of like 125, and there's a complete consistency, I do think that the AD dodge, despite the ground excel being pretty normal for most arena FPSs, ends up being a little bit too erratic, maybe in third person. That with the LG shaft being only a 0.5 hit radius, which means it adds 0.5 pixels either side of the hitbox, really makes it kind of feel a little bit like Yankee, especially mid-range. When people are dodging, it kind of feels like Overwatch when you're fighting against Baby Diva, so that's not great. So it needs a little bit more sticking power, and we'll have to look into maybe not the ground excel, but like if the tick rate is increasing, people's kind of dodging power. But we can find some solutions for that, just to kind of tone it. The other thing is like when we gave you all the game modes, especially the ones that are much more around on movement with rocket jumping, the bolt mechanic is really for new players to get their first jump. I do though, however, think it's a little bit powerful when it comes to pro gamers, just because then it becomes a necessity to use it because it's such an advantage over you know, doing your first circle jump. So I do think it needs to be toned. So new players can still get their first jump for free. But pro gamers and high level play don't need it as much, because unfortunately with Bolt what happens is you don't necessarily increase the speed of people moving, but you increase everyone's speed to almost, I would say like almost everyone's running around at max speed because of Bolt, right? Which generally just makes the game a lot faster. I don't really want to play with the cooldown of it, but I will play with its power. If I end up nerfing it too much, what will happen is I'll probably end up allowing you to shoot on Bolt, just so it has more of a small dodge mechanic to it. But it's really important that the new players have it when it comes to the more casual game modes, because it is fun. And you can nerf something when it doesn't become fun, and then you kind of break it. So I think that's a small challenge, but I've already done a lot of testing with it, so I think I know what I'm going to do. Yeah, movement's pretty easy in this game, so it's yeah, sorry, I just glanced over at chat. Okay, game modes. So the reason we gave you a lot of the casual game modes is they're almost more important than the competitive ones, because the competitive ones we know people are going to play. Because why do arena FPS players play competitive? Is it because they love the game? Fuck no. They want money, right? So if you stick up money, eventually Cooler will suck it up and come play your video game. But if you don't have money, not going to happen, right? So the casual game modes are in some way very important. So we did put the casual game modes in. One of the reasons that we put the casual game modes in is because we wanted to focus on what new player experience would be without people having to jump into TDM, CTF, Dual, MacGuffin, and all the more competitive game modes. So if you've been playing all week, chances are you're like, man, I'm fucking bored of Wipeout. I'm bored of Arena. You know, I'm bored of everything. And it's like, yeah, you kind of are. But the game modes we wanted to ship were more to kind of figure out, like, what do we need for a casual playlist that people can just jump in and join if they come from other games, not just Arena FPS. And then what I learned is that, yeah, they're pretty good, but they still need some updating. So Wipeout has a couple of problems. First of all, it was designed the maps of 5v5 because there was always a talk about more players in a game, less anxiety there is on you because you mean less. But unfortunately, with more players, spawn times go up faster. So at points, even Clan Arena of Quake Live, you might even get more playtime because the rounds are over quicker. And some of the rounds last 5 minutes. So I think I've got to revisit the spawn system and either see if it just feels a little bit better with like a +4 as opposed to +5 per death, or we do something a little bit more, a different spawn system, just to give a little bit more playtime but still get the game to finish. Wipeout also is missing an ingredient, and the ingredient is like team choices. There isn't a lot of team choices when it comes to playing. It's just hit, rocket jump and have fun. It's a great mode to disguise the lack of polish in the game though, because you're all rocket jumping around and just hitting, you don't actually know that there's really a lack of polish in the movement and the kind of combat. And you start to feel it when you play Duel. So it was a fantastic mode to disguise how bad the game is. Because if you rocket jump around, it doesn't matter. You know, all the little intricacies of close range combat, doesn't matter. Just hit people.